Princess Liora and the Starlight Crown. Chapter 3. The Shadow in the Glass. Welcome back, dear dreamers, to the magical world of Princess Liora and the Starlight Crown. If this is your very first time joining us, I invite you to step back and discover the enchanting path that has brought us here. In Chapter 1, The Starlight Crown, we first met Princess Liora, a young princess of radiant heart who stumbled upon a destiny greater than her own reflection. Guided by whispers of prophecy and the glowing star-shaped crown that chose her, Liora embarked on a path filled with light, wonder, and mysteries yet untold. Then, in Chapter 2, The Moonlight Garden, Liora ventured into the fabled garden that blooms only once every century under the silver glow of the moon. There, with the clever guardian Fennel the fox at her side, she faced riddles of wisdom, visions of futures that shimmered with both hope and shadow, and perhaps most haunting of all, the presence of a dark figure lurking just out of reach, hinting that greater dangers were waiting in the shadows. And now, dear listener, we arrive at Chapter 3, The Shadow in the Glass, a chapter where reflections betray, secrets awaken, and the courage of one heart must shine brighter than even the sharpest darkness. If you haven't yet experienced Liora's earlier adventures, I truly encourage you to return to Chapters 1 and 2 before continuing, for every star of this tale shines brighter when you follow their journey in order. But if you are ready, then take my hand, step into the palace halls of Willowmere, and let the glass whisper its secrets. The story begins. The palace of Willowmere was aglow with lanterns, their golden light reflecting off polished marble floors. Outside, the night sky stretched like velvet sprinkled with diamonds, each star a reminder of the Starlight Crown that now rested in Princess Liora's chambers. Liora moved softly through the halls, her slippers brushing over the stone as she carried with her the faint scent of moonbloom flowers from the Enchanted Garden. Though her lips curved into a smile, her heart still carried the weight of the vision she had seen at the fountain, the figure cloaked in darkness. A shadow whose gaze had pierced through her as though it knew her better than she knew herself. Her hand instinctively tightened around the silver locket at her neck, a gift from her late mother, Queen Seraphina. "Light will always guide you," her mother's voice once said, and Liora whispered those words under her breath like a prayer. "Princess?" came a gentle voice. It was Fennel the fox, padding at her side, his russet fur gleaming in the lantern glow. "You are restless. You haven't slept properly since the Moonlight Garden. What weighs on you tonight?" Liora hesitated. "The vision, Fennel. The shadow. I feel it is closer now, as though it followed me out of the garden." The fox tilted his head, his golden eyes keen. "Visions are warnings, not certainties, but shadows. They linger only when light forgets to shine. Be cautious, princess, but do not let fear write your story." Liora smiled faintly at his wisdom, though the unease in her chest remained. As they turned a corner, her steps faltered. A chamber door stood ajar, though she remembered it always being locked. Curiosity drew her near. The room inside was dim, lit only by a sliver of moonlight spilling through tall windows. And there at the far end of the chamber stood an ancient mirror, its frame wrought in twisted silver vines, its surface rippling like water though no wind stirred. Liora shivered. "I have never seen this mirror before." Fennel's fur bristled. "And yet it was waiting. I don't like it." Still, Liora stepped forward, her reflection shimmering in the glass. But what she saw was not her true self. Her reflection's eyes glowed faintly violet instead of her usual sky blue, and the faintest curl of a smile played upon its lips, a smile she herself had not made. "Welcome, Princess Liora," the reflection whispered. "The shadow in the glass." Her breath caught. "Who are you?" The reflection tilted its head, mirroring her but not in perfect unison. "I am you." Or rather, the part of you that you do not wish to see, Fennel growled low. Step away, Liora. This is trickery. But the glass shimmered again, and now it showed visions Liora seated upon her throne, her people bowing in silence, their eyes hollow. Another vision of herself crowned not with light but with thorns of shadow. And yet another, where she turned her back on her friends and kingdom, walking alone into the night. Leora's knees trembled. This isn't me. The shadow self smirked. Not yet. But every crown comes with a choice. Will you be their savior or their undoing? The mirror rippled once more, and the dark figure from the Moonlight Garden appeared behind the reflection. A tall shape cloaked in mist, faceless yet radiating power. Its voice was like a distant storm. She cannot run forever. The glass darkened, and with a sound like a heartbeat, it went still. Only her pale, frightened face remained in the reflection, doubt and determination. For nights after, Liora could not banish the images from her mind. She trained harder with her mentors, studied longer with her scholars, and walked the palace gardens as though answers might bloom from the roses. But no matter what she did, the whisper of the mirror lingered. What if it is true? She confided one evening to Fennel as they overlooked the moonlit lake. What if there is a part of me that could become like that shadow? What if I fail them all? The fox pressed close against her leg, his tail brushing gently against her gown. Light is not the absence of shadow, Liora. It is the strength to face it and still shine. Perhaps this mirror is not a curse, but a test. She drew a steadying breath. Yes, a test, and one she would not fail. But the mirror had already begun to work its mischief. Whispers slithered through the court. Servants spoke of cold draughts and strange reflections haunting the halls. Nobles swore they saw the princess walking where she could not possibly be. And Liora herself began catching glimpses, her reflection moving a split second too late, or smiling faintly when her lips remained still. The shadow in the glass was growing stronger. The festival of lights, to lift the kingdom's spirits. King Eldirion declared the festival of lights, a night where lanterns would float across the river, carrying prayers and hopes into the skies. Liora, dressed in a gown of pale silver, joined the people at the riverside. Children laughed as they released their glowing lanterns, couples held hands, and the air was filled with music. For a moment, the heaviness in her chest lifted, but when she leaned over to place her own lantern upon the water, the surface rippled and her reflection smiled back at her with eyes of violet flame. Before she could cry out, the lantern tipped and the river itself seemed to darken, swallowing the light of the other lanterns nearby. Gasps rose from the crowd as shadows coiled like serpents beneath the water. Liora, Fennel barked, but even as he leapt forward, a cold hand gripped her wrist from beneath the river, from beneath the reflection. The shadow in the glass was no longer trapped within the mirror. It was reaching into her world. The twist. The people screamed as the water roared upward, forming a wall of liquid glass. Within it shimmered countless reflections of Liora smiling, crying, scowling, whispering, all of them twisted versions of herself. The cloaked figure appeared within the water, its faceless head turning toward her. Your kingdom's light blinds you, it murmured, but shadows always return. The crown is not only a gift, it is a door. The starlight crown upon her head flickered, dimming as though suffocated by darkness. Leora's heart pounded. She reached deep within herself, recalling her mother's words, recalling the riddles of the Moonlight Garden, recalling the people who now screamed in terror. I will not let you have them, she cried. I am Liora, Princess of Willowmere, bearer of the Starlight Crown, and I choose the light. The crown blazed suddenly, its brilliance cutting through the watery shadows. The reflections screamed and shattered, the river crashing back into its rightful place. The cloaked figure recoiled, its form wavering before vanishing into mist. The people cheered, but their faces remained pale with fear. Liora stood trembling, her gown soaked, her chest heaving, for though she had won this battle, she knew the war with the shadows had only begun. End of Chapter 3. The Shadow in the Glass. Princess Liora has faced her reflection, glimpsed the darkness within, and battled shadows that would tear her kingdom apart. Yet the faceless figure still lingers, waiting, watching, promising that her journey is far from over. What lies ahead in Chapter 4? What deeper truths about the Starlight Crown and the shadows tied to it will come to light? Only time will reveal. If you enjoyed this tale, make sure you journey back to Chapter 1, the Starlight Crown, and Chapter 2, the Moonlight Garden, if you haven't already, so you may see how each star connects in the sky of this story. And most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to Sukaw Shorts, your home for magical storytelling, fairy tales, and enchanting adventures. Tap the bell so you never miss the next chapter in Liora's journey. Because, dear dreamers, the story is only just beginning.